Welcome to season 2 of the Just Peachy Show. I am so excited to present to you our next guest speaker. She is a real estate professional. Please help me in welcoming the owner of Realty One Group in Jacksonville and St. Augustine, Miss Tanya Cosmini. Tanya, welcome and thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh my gosh, Peachy, thank you so much for having me. It is such an honor. Very exciting.
Yeah, so for our listeners and viewers, Tanya is an awesome realtor here locally. And today I wanted to talk about just the real estate business, right? What is a real estate agent? What are the types of real estate agents? How do they get paid? What do they do for you? So those are the things that we're going to discuss today. But before I do that, customary for us to ask our guest speakers about themselves. So, Tanya, I'm going to ask you if you could tell us a little bit about yourself and how did you become a real estate agent?
For sure. I am a single mom here in North Florida. I've got two boys. They're 14 and 12. And I would say my real estate career didn't start off very, very typical because it's not my background. My background is actually in veterinary medicine. I thought I was going to be a veterinarian when I grew up and had a change of heart and actually got a master's degree in education and became a high school biology teacher. And was in a car accident and had to leave work, had to leave teaching because it was back in the day when you wrote on a chalkboard.
Oh,
And I
yeah.
injured my shoulder and I couldn't write my right shoulder. I couldn't write on the board. So I was released from work for 30 days and decided to have a career change. And a friend was a realtor and said, you know what, Tanya, I think you could make a great agent. And that was in 2007. And I took the class online and became a realtor. And that's,
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, it's like very strange. It was just someone said, try it. And I thought, well, like, what do I have to lose?
Yeah.
And
Yeah. And you are not only a real estate agent, you're also helping other real estate agents build
correct.
their practice. So we can talk about that a little bit. But before we jump to that piece, let's get on with just talking about what is a real estate agent, what are the types of real estate agent, and then let's see what comes out of that.
Sure, that's a really great question because there are probably a lot of people that don't understand, what a real estate agent is. So we can start at the bottom. So in order to become a real estate agent, you have to take in Florida, it's like a week-long class. And with that, you become what's known as a sales associate. And the sales associate gives you the opportunity to represent a buyer or a seller in the buying and selling of property. Usually you only represent one or the other, but sometimes you do represent both at the same time. But it's not as it only happens maybe 3% of the time of all transactions. So usually what happens is people don't understand they're hear this really weird word called being a realtor, like a realtor. So
Mm-hmm.
the difference between a realtor and a sales associate is that you're a part of an MLS, the multiple listing service, which is governed by the National Association of Realtors. And when you are an actual realtor as opposed to a sales associate, we have a very strict code of ethics that we have to follow that allows us to, or recommends and guides us to treat people honestly and fairly, keep whether you represent the buyer or the seller, both people's interest in minds, to not withhold information about the property that might not be beneficial. But that's really the big difference between kind of someone being a sales associate and being a realtor is that we're a part of a board that has a governing body that kind of directs how and what we do with property.
So that's interesting. So can sales associates sell me my property too?
They can, they're just not a member of an MLS, so they can't advertise on the MLS. So
Huh.
you wouldn't necessarily see them on a lot of the public domains that pull from the MLS because they're not a member of it. So for instance, I have friends that do short-term rental management. And so they're a sales associate because they mostly manage the day-to-day activities in being a short-term rental. and they do sometimes facilitate the purchasing of property for their owners, but they're not a part of an MLS.
Got it.
I
So,
know
and
it's strange.
yeah, and I never knew the difference up until this moment, right? So I thought that a realtor is a realtor. I did not realize there was such thing as a sales associate that can actually help facilitate the sale of a property. I just
Yep.
assumed that you must be licensed, a licensed realtor, just like, insurance agents, we need to be licensed in order
Right.
to even talk about it.
So
So,
the sales associate is licensed. So they went through like the same class and
oh, I
they
see.
go through licensing. They just didn't do the next step and become a member of an MLS.
Gotcha. Oh,
Yeah.
now I see. Big
Yeah.
difference from
Hmm.
where I'm thinking.
Yeah. That's okay.
Okay. Interesting. So is there since there's this governing body that essentially tells you the rules, right? And you must adhere to these code of ethics and so on and so forth. Is there a thing that says you must disclose on, let's say, your business cards or your website or your email that you're a realtor or a sales associate? Is there such thing that does differentiate that so that consumers would know who's
Sure.
a realtor
So
and who's a sales associate?
so kind of. So a sales associate has to work under a broker in order to sell property. So if that broker is a part of an MLS, then that sales associate also has to be part of an MLS. So yes, because you have to have, so if you're Tanya Cosmini working for Realty One Group Elevate, I'm the broker. So all of my agents have to have this Realty One Group Elevate information on their business cards and on their email signature, on the contracts and everything, because they can't represent customers in the buying and selling of property unless they're under a broker.
Gotcha. So what is that extra step? So what is that extra step from becoming a sales associate to a realtor?
Just joining an MLS.
Just joining an MLS. Gotcha.
Under a brokerage.
Under
Under
a
a
broker.
broker. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. So as a realtor, right? What is what's the difference if you're working with a seller or a buyer? So from your perspective, what is the difference?
So it's a lot different. It's a lot different in the sense that sellers usually have a time. Well, I guess that is similar too, but sellers have a certain need, right? So they're just different than the buyer's need. So they're like, I have to sell my house because I had another kid or because I'm moving and I had another job. And a lot of the work done with the seller is done before you list the property. You have to meet them, find out their needs, take the pictures, do the video, do the marketing so that the day it becomes live, out the gate, you're ready and everything's wonderful and everything's in line. Where with a buyer, you're going to meet them and you're still going to interview them and guide them and find out what their needs. But on day one, you're not advertising because you don't really advertise with a buyer. Instead, you're learning their needs. And the reason for buying or selling could be similar, right? It could be having a baby, having a new job, or a promotion or whatever it is. So there's a lot of similarities, but in the way you interact in the beginning is slightly different.
Gotcha. So let's talk about compensation. So how do realtors get paid? And is it negotiable?
So everything's negotiable because there is no set commissions at all. So if anyone has ever said that, unfortunately, that's untrue. There is no set commission. So generally speaking, the seller provides the commission for both buyers, for the person representing the buyer and the person representing the seller. And that's negotiated upfront at the listing appointment when they sign the listing agreement. So there'll be, if I want to just use a random number, I'll say it. So the seller has agreed to pay a 5% commission. And they've agreed that 2.5% of that commission will go to the listing agent representing the seller, and 2.5% will be paid to the person representing the buyer. So it comes out of the proceeds from the sale of the property on the seller side. And it doesn't have to be plain like that. Like sometimes, maybe the house isn't showing as well as the seller wanted, so they maybe offer a bonus. And so they've already agreed to the 2.5%, but they say, hey Tanya, as my listing agent, we really want to get the home sold quickly. Do you think if we offered a buyer's agent a $3,000 bonus if they bring us a full price offer by December 31st, would that help bring a buyer? And I mean, sure. I mean, usually people that can be very enticing to a lot of buyers agents. So it's very flexible.
I see. So has there ever been a time where a, I guess a seller would take bids from realtors?
So do you know what? That's so funny. That process has just coming to North Florida. I can't remember the name of the website, but I'm one of their approved agents because things that are new intrigue me. So I spend a lot of time like researching maybe what's going on in real estate in different areas because I've done real estate in Virginia, Colorado, and here. And what I learned is that real estate has a culture. So kind of what's the going culture of real estate here is not what we did in Virginia, not what we did in Colorado. So I'll look and see kind of what's leading to sales or new websites that came out. And there is literally a site right now that's just launched in Florida. I think it's Bid My Listing, where sellers can go in there and they'll put the information for their house, and an agent can put a proposal together saying, I'll just use pretend numbers. I would list your house for 500,000. I'm willing to pay you $1,000 for the opportunity to be the person who lists your house. And I would do that for 6% commission.
Wow. See, that's interesting.
It's literally, it started in California and they just launched it here. I guess it's been very popular in South Florida, which is how I found the information out.
Uh-huh.
But they literally just started it here in the last like 30 days.
Go figure. And that's
Yeah, if I talked to you 30 days ago, I would have said, no, that doesn't exist.
Right. Oh,
I would have said, no, that doesn't exist.
Yes. So that's okay. Okay. So well, that might change some of the landscape of how we're buying and selling our houses. And mostly, I think that would be for the seller part, right? Because the seller is the one that's kind of getting RFP, so to speak. Mm-hmm. The real estate market is affected by obviously the increase in the rates. And I imagine that, I've not been following it recently because I'm not in the market to buy homes, but I imagine that the housing inventory is a little less, or is it?
So it's changing for sure. So we were in a very unhealthy market for almost 2 years now. There was, incredible gains on people's property values, which is amazing. But at some point it becomes unsustainable, right? The average person can't afford the average home, which is a big problem. That means homes can't sell because people locally can't afford them. And so now, we've had a huge shift where we've gone from home selling in, 72 hours with 13 offers to right now, the average is just around 40 days for people to go under contract, which seems like an eternity. You go from 3 days to 40 days, people are like, the market is crashing. No, the market isn't crashing. It's adjusting, it's correcting based on the fact that it was so unhealthy before. And a lot of that is because of the interest rates, right? Money was so cheap to borrow. People are like, I've been here for 2 years. I only feel medium about my house. I made, 15% in 2 years. It's a lot of equity. I'm going to cash in that equity and I can almost have the same payment because my interest rate's 3%, super affordable. Or people were like, oh, I've saved up a lot of money. It's so inexpensive to borrow money. I'm going to buy a rental property because they were able to have a really good margin between what their mortgage is and what they rented it for. because the interest rates were so cheap, or so low. So now that it's kind of more normal of what's kind of the industry average of around 7%, people are like, whoa, 7%, that's bananas. But you compare it to what it was in the 80s when people were buying homes at
Oh yeah.
15, 18% interest. 7% looks pretty good.
Yeah, we've been spoiled, especially in the past 3 years. So
Well,
3 years, really.
yes.
COVID amazingly did this to the housing market. Like I did not know. Well, I don't think anybody knew what was going to happen after March 2020. Like how that's going to affect the real estate market is one of them, right? How that's all going to play out, and the past 2 years. It's just been crazy.
It's incredible to think that. I think that if you looked at like the first 3 weeks in March and you told economists and realtor experts, we should probably go back and see what they were all saying about what this would happen.
Yeah, right.
What would happen? I bet you a lot of people thought it would crash because how do you sell property without literally being in front of people? How do you show houses without having to be 6 foot apart from them? And it's just amazing how flexible everybody became, right? We went from, I used to do, buyer consults and seller consults in person to doing it on Zoom on their phone while they gave me a walking tour of their home. And I'd be like, hey, can you show me that one more time? Hold on, just let me take some notes because I just show that, can you take pictures of it as well so I can refer back to it to, introduce the process and be sure they know everything that's going on. And the same with buyers. Buyers were still buying homes and they bought it all virtually. It's crazy to think how flexible people are in adversity. It amazes me.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. You're speaking to someone who also it wasn't actually I was probably one of the crazy ones if you would classify me as that, because I did exactly that pre-COVID. I did it, in 2018
Yeah.
when I told my realtor, say, here's the check. I did not see my house until the day I moved in. Okay, call me crazy. So, but now that has become the norm, especially during the pandemic at its peak, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, okay, fantastic. So, I know that we can talk about a lot of these more. There's more to talk about. Tanya, if people have questions, and whether you have realtors under you, right? Am I getting this right? Where
Yeah,
people can go work with you under the Realty One Group umbrella.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about that first. If we have realtors listening or sales associates listening right now, and or how is the process? Do they just contact you and then you kind of take it from there? How does that work?
Absolutely. So all they have to do is reach out, via phone call, text, email. I feel like texting is probably more simple for people. I like to talk, so I love the phone. But a text is perfect, or an email, and we set up a time to talk over the phone or a Zoom or in person and just see if it's the right fit. We offer, I think something really dynamic. We have coaching, which is really amazing, which I'm really proud of as a former educator to be able to offer, in-person coaching to realtors with a lot of training. We have dynamic tools. We volunteer. We're really into being a part of the community and volunteering our time and part of our commission towards local organizations as well as national organizations. And that's just like the tip of the iceberg. And you can see the word care like right next to me. Something pretty amazing that we offer that a lot of other real estate brokerages don't is we actually have health insurance, which is, as an independent contractor, pretty huge. And it's real health insurance. It's not like a catastrophic, you have to almost be dead to use the policy. It's like real insurance that covers you from the beginning. So it's an amazing company that I'm humbled and honored to be a part of.
That sounds great. So if you're a realtor, reach out to Tanya. Now, what about buyers or sellers? Is it the same process? Do you have a website or email that you'd like to give away? Yes.
We do. So they can go to realty1group elevate.com. They can also go to sellinghomes904.com to learn about the team and me and kind of what we're doing, and Realty One Group as a whole, to see if it's a right fit. And I like to talk to a lot of the buyers and sellers to see whom personality wise they might match with the best. There's about 11 of us, so we're kind of small right now, which is fun, and we're able to kind of see who works best with everybody, because like works with like. Not everybody is going to want to work with everybody else, and that's okay. You should be able to have a choice. So whether a buyer or seller is looking to whomever they want to work with, I know I have somebody that will be the right fit for them.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Well, Tanya, thank you so much. Thank you for being on the show today. I appreciate it. I learned some stuff today, and I hope that our listeners and viewers did too.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Peachy, for the opportunity. I really appreciate it.
All right. I'll talk to you later.
Yep, bye.
Information shared during the show are opinions of the speakers. They are not legal, financial, or tax advice specific to you. Consult your own specialist, attorney, accountant, financial planner, or insurance advisor for your specific situation.